We haven't met in a while. From our does anyone have any announcements?
I've got one.
And also, I'm sure.
I was just going to comment. I was hoping John was going to be on here, but I don't see him showing up yet. I have all the Grape control stations back online recording. And so that's the original one, and then version 1.2, the DRF, and the Grape 2. So, and it took a little while. They're located up at a friend of mine's home, 4 miles directly east of WWV. So they're pretty good ground wave recordings. And this is the site that also, Rob, we have the RX 888 up there too. So they're all 4 in the same box, sitting in an office, in a barn. So working pretty good, I hope.
What's the
That's it.
antenna system for that?
For the RX 888, it's a vertical. It's a 10-meter vertical, so it doesn't really need to be as good of an antenna. For the Grapes, I put up a weaker antenna because we were having a lot of trouble with, of course, being so close, a lot of overload on the carrier. So I put up a poorly designed dipole that is not tuned to 10 meters and or to 10 megahertz, excuse me, and wrapped it around the building so it doesn't get a great signal, but it still comes screaming in there, of course. So, but it works well.
Dave, I saw all 3 of your stations upload last night. I sent you an email. I don't know if you've seen it or not yet. Looks
No,
like
I haven't gotten that far this morning.
Okay.
I will. Thank you.
I have a comment about my Grape system. The Grape DRF failed, and I assumed it was a hard disk because the computer couldn't find the hard disk anymore. Turns out the hard disk is still running. It was the SATA to USB interface that had failed. Replace that, and I'm back on the air again. But that I thought was a little bit unusual because we put so much emphasis on these 4 terabyte hard disks not lasting very long. And mine is still working fine with a new interface.
That's good. The interface is working. Yeah, I think we said we were concerned about the about using like solid state drives, but I think the 4 terabyte drives were like the regular hard drives were okay.
Well, I went out and bought a solid state drive and it didn't work either. So it's here on the shelf. It was that doggone interface that failed, not the hard disk itself.
Yeah.
I've been using a hard solid state drive since the beginning of DRF, and it's working just fine. I think solid state drives are not good if you read and write the same bit over and over and over again.
Right.
And I don't know that that's.
But doesn't this system just keep adding on and adding on, which would write to different bits?
Exactly.
And I think that's the thing that would save a solid state drive.
Yep.
With the Grape 2, I struggled getting it up and running, and again, it was the interface to the hard drive. And I was wondering if it was the cables, like you said, the interface with the case might be an issue, but I unwound all the cables that were wound up together and separated things. And I probably booted it 5 times before it finally found the drive, and then it was fine after that. But it was disheartening, and it was hard to, what am I doing wrong? It took a long time to figure that out.
My initial problem was that there was some interference between the hard drive cables and the Wi-Fi. I'm using Wi-Fi here. And once I put a couple of ferrite chokes on the drive from the computer to the hard disk, things settled down and it started working and has worked ever since.
Hey, this is Red, KC4LE. Had something I wanted to mention to the group here. Is my audio coming in okay?
Yeah, it sounds fine, Red.
Okay, good. Hey, I've got, of course, I'm running a Grape 2 system here that Hamsai sent, and a Grape 1 DRF system that Hamsai sent. And I augmented that to make it a dual Grape system, to also record the FLDigi stuff. In addition to that, I put together a 5 megahertz station here that's doing both DRF and FLDigi. And it's tying up a pretty good bit of my stuff with a couple of pies and a Bodner and a whole bunch of other stuff. But I wanted to take that 5 megahertz station down. It's been recording since before the since before the October eclipse. And it's still recording now. But I wanted to take that down and use those components for some other projects I've got in mind. But I didn't just want to pull the rug on this thing without running it by some of y'all. I don't know who may be using that data or depending on it in particular from my location. Just wanted to toss it out there and see if taking that out of service would be of any concern to anybody.
The system was designed to be modular, so if especially since you're running so many other stations, I think you're okay to take it down if you need to.
Okay. Yeah, I just did that as a kind of a fun project anyhow. I had all this stuff, most of the stuff already in the junk box here. And while we were getting all geared up back last autumn, I was kind of enthused to put this together and get it out there and contribute a little more data. So I'll be taking that down later on today then.
Okay. I don't know if we have any updates on old business. It's too many. I have sent a note to Zorman. I believe I'll need an online system that's connected to the speed type to send a shipping label, but I won't know if that's available and what the remaining budget is until I hear back from Zorman. I didn't know if there's been any progress. This is really a John question also on uploading the Grape to Eclipse data.
I think that might be would that be a Kung question?
A little bit of a Kung question, also a John question, but I don't want to put Kung on the spot.
I can talk about it a little bit. It seems like John might not be here right now. So yeah, I've been hacking away at the RF manipulation because last time when I tried to downsample the really large data we have down to 10 hertz bandwidth, and I tried to plot that, it didn't seem to the resulting plot didn't seem to make sense. So I've been trying to write some code to read the original 8 kilohertz bandwidth data in C, try to read that efficiently, and I've been taking a little bit because it's not Python. But yeah, I've been working at that and see if I can get some plots that make sense from our DRF data.
Okay, nice. I don't know. Let's see. I know John said something about pulling the group last week. But I don't know if he's gotten around to that. Or not last week, 2 weeks ago. Okay. I don't think we have too much other old business outside of the impending grape paper. Does anyone have any new business that they'd like to talk about today? Or discussion topics?
I don't think so. I think I'd be very interested in talking about the AGU paper.
That's sensible. I have not been as productive on it as I would like. I am currently in Illinois. But yes, we probably should talk about it.
I think the AGU, so also along with the AGU paper, abstracts for the AGU conference are coming up. I think, are you planning on going, Rachel?
I don't know, just because I have to qualify this January, and
Oh, okay.
and I also don't know if I can do the New England convention anymore because I got drafted to teach, and so I'm not
Really?
sure for the school year if I'll have to go to any meetings or things with the course director to talk about what needs to be in that course.
Well, if you do, I mean, I think you should tell the course director that you already had this pre-existing commitment to go to, you're an invited speaker at this conference. So I think it would make sense to tell them that you already have this obligation and try to schedule around it if you can.
I will talk to them then.
Okay. I think AGU with your qualifying exams coming up, I certainly understand if going to AGU is too much.
Yeah, but I do think there should be a strong Hamside presence at AGU.
I agree with that.
Are going.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go. I think we should have a ham-sized solar eclipse presentation at AGU. So I guess the question is, who gives that? So I'm certainly a possibility. I know I'm planning on giving either an LSTID or an MSTID talk at AGU this year. I may be able to do another one, but I think it'd be nice if we could get someone else possibly to give an eclipse talk.
Yeah. I don't know unless Christina may want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to volunteer anyone from CASE without talking to them first. I don't know who else would be going to AGU from CASE other than Christina.
Okay. I think Kung is another possibility.
Oh yeah, actually, if Kung's going to be there, he should probably give it then.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind giving a presentation on the eclipse.
And you are a funded graduate student on this grant, so it'd be appropriate for you to go.
Yeah, I think I would enjoy that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think
Is
what
there-
we should do then is, at the very least, by next week, maybe Kung and Rachel, if you can get together and come up with an abstract.
Okay.
Okay.
Will it be different from that session that Vincent sending me an email about?
That's a good question. I think we should have one. we definitely want one that goes, so anything that goes in Vincent's session, would be more focused on like the equipment and the hardware. So like making the thing, because Vincent's session is the MacGyver session. How do you
Okay.
make instruments out of random stuff? There's probably, I haven't had a chance to look at the AGU sessions yet. There's probably going to be an Eclipse session as well.
Oh, okay.
And the Eclipse session would be more focused on science results. Now,
Okay.
one thing that could happen is, we might be able to do two presentations. Like it might do an overall Eclipse science presentation that includes not just the solar, not just the Grape data, but kind of includes observations from all of the Eclipse projects. We could do that in the main Eclipse session, and then we could also do just have just the Grape in the Vincent session.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I like that.
Okay. Um,
Oh no, different schedule.
what's that?
Oh no, I grabbed the wrong link.
Let me look in the here I can, you're sharing
Skip
it right now.
Plan.
Here's the, I'll put the link in the chat for the AGU. Okay, there's a link in the chat for the AGU conferences. All right, search. Eclipse ionosphere.
Will I have to do a poster as well, or is that
We don't, so what we do is we submit the abstract first, and then they'll tell us in like November or something, or October, whether it's a talk or a poster.
Oh, okay. I see.
Okay. Yeah, so actually Gareth has a session in the Eclipse called Results from the 2023 and 2024 solar eclipses. So I think your talk could either go in the in Vincent's or in the 2023-2024 eclipse session. I think, okay, so why don't we do this? I think I'd really like to give a talk in the overall eclipse session that kind of covers all of the Festival of Eclipse ionospheric science.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm going to submit an abstract to the Eclipse session. For this particular project, yeah, Kung, why don't we have you submit one to Vincent's session?
Okay.
And so your talk is going to be focused on the Grape 2.
Mm-hmm.
You can also include Grape DRF and the Whisper Demon Grape observations. So like we can kind of combine all of that together. So basically, so personal space weather observations of the 2023 and 2024 solar eclipses.
Yeah, okay. So basically like an improvement to my poster at Cedar.
Yes.
Mm.
But you should we want to show, so you want to talk about the hardware and things, but you also want to show some nice science results in there.
Mhm.
So really show that this actually worked. So let's get that MacGyver one. Glad you know. Here's the there's the link to the MacGyver session.
Okay.
So if you and Rachel could draft a abstract for that and then send it to me, we can iterate on that.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Okay. Um,
Do we
Okay.
talk?
Hmm?
Are you ready to talk about the AGU paper?
I haven't made as much progress on it as I would have liked.
Why don't we start? We can start with the presentation that you gave at Hamvention and your Cedar poster, and we can take a look at what you have there, and then we could get kind of feedback from the group as to what might be nice things to either add or change to it.
Okay.
And we can also talk about, we talked about with Chris Zorman in trying to write up a GRL article.
Yes,
Do you still want to go for that?
I think so.
Okay.
Do you think that's a bad idea?
Well, GRL, so there's good things and bad things about them. Okay, so here's the good thing about GRL is it's a short paper and it's high impact. The bad thing about GRLs is it's a short paper. And I don't know, have you heard that Mark Twain quote that I'm sorry to have written you such a long letter. I didn't have time to write a short one.
Yeah.
So the trick with GRLs is that you have to be like super focused on like like every little aspect because you have a very hard limit in terms of what you can put in there. And so they're very, you have to be very, very careful editorially because you don't have any extra room to like spread out. That's what makes them hard.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. So what we could do is we can start, so we could go the GRL route, which is like you typically do 3 or 4 figures and then your limit 3 or 4 figures in like 8,000 words. So you can do that. Or if you go to something like you could do like a JGR Journal of Geophysical Research Space Physics paper, which allows at the standard cost like 25 publication units, where again each figure is 1 publication unit. Or you could even do like a Frontiers article, which we published in Frontiers for the that review article. It's kind of a similar to a JGR space physics sort of paper. If we go with the with one of the longer ones, one advantage is, like, since this is a citizen science project, like if we have additional if you want to include, it gives you more room to put additional figures in, and you can have more people help you write different sections, I think. And it doesn't have to be quite as tight. And that 25 units is like a maximum. It's not, so you can actually have less than that. And that's only a maximum without like having overage charges. So actually, if you do go over, it is possible to have the paper be longer. You just have to pay more money. So it's just a lot more forgiving in terms of constraints.
Yeah. Let's see.
Well, in one other thing, we don't have to decide. I'm not sure. We don't have to decide right now. Like, we can try outlining it first and see kind of, where the outline goes. And if it looks like the outline's going to be a little bit longer, we can go for the JGR or the Frontiers. If it's going to be a little shorter, then we can go for the GRL.
That's fair. I'm more thinking of in terms of figures, because we already want to include a map. We probably will want to include Grape 1 data.
Mm-hmm.
There's Grape 1 DRF data, and then we hopefully will have produced a few plots of some Grape 2 data.
Yeah.
So since our plots take up a lot of publication units, the plots are very beneficial. I don't think the paper can happen without the plots.
Oh, absolutely. You have to have the plot.
But
like, in fact, usually,
yeah.
Has anyone ever told you that in writing paper?
What?
Has anyone ever talked to you about the order of writing papers? What comes first in writing a paper?
No, but I usually like to start with the plots.
Well,
but
that's
Yeah.
Yeah, if you ask anyone in the space physics field, that's exactly what they will tell you. They will tell you it starts with the plots. So yeah, I completely agree with you.
That's why you should always give your plots like descriptive file names with dates and like information, so it's not just like plot 1. When you're like playing with data, it's not just like plot 1 final.
The other thing you can remember with these papers is that your one plot can be very complicated and can have multiple panels. So
yeah.
So you can actually get a lot of mileage out of a single figure. And so
That's fair.
people will stick a lot of subpanels into a plot because then it doesn't count against the publication units.
Is there still a plain language summary on the GRL?
Yes, but that doesn't count against your publication units.
Perfect. That's what I kind of hoped. Um. Will not work. Okay, paste this. Do we want to include magnetometer data as well? Because I imagined that we probably would.
I think for now, I would say no.
Okay.
For a couple of reasons. One is I think that the most compelling reason is it's going to be very difficult to see the eclipse signature in the magnetometer data. Two, there's a limited number of stations that have the magnetometers. Three, it's actually not in the scope of the current grant. So it's not even required. So, and then four, we have tons of HF data, of Grape data with really easy to see signatures. So I think we're going to have enough right there. I think what could happen is that it might be like, let's say you decide to go with a longer format with like the JGR or the Frontiers, then we could talk to Yeoman, and if we do have some reasonable magnetometer observations that are relevant, we could add a section to that and just like add it in as a section. But we could also have the paper kind of stand alone without it.
Yeah. Okay. I went ahead and threw the current working outline.
That looks good. If you want, one other thing I found useful sometime is I think a couple things I found useful. One is either to start an overleaf template, get that going, because they have the like GRL, JGR templates. It's the same template. You can start it in there and just use that for outlining, because you can stick figures in there and you can put in sections and subsections and write notes to yourself. And then it's like, okay, you actually kind of have made some progress towards this.
That's fair. I like to start in Word sometimes because or a document that has like a more comprehensive spell checker.
Okay.
I hate to announce to the world that I'm bad at spelling, but I'm decent at math, so I hope it works out.
Yeah, one of the other things I like about the LaTeX, though, even though the spell checker maybe isn't as comprehensive, it has better bibliography management.
Oh, absolutely.
And I value the bibliography management over the spell checking.
That's fair. I do like paragraphs and then I'll copy it in, but
yeah. Another way you can do it too is that's very figure focused, is to start with the PowerPoint presentation and build the figures into the PowerPoint, and then for each figure should have a message, so you can put like 3 bullet points in for each figure. And this is a nice way to go also, because then as you're making your PowerPoint, or as you're outlining your paper in there, you're also kind of setting yourself up nicely if you have to give a presentation at AGU or something like that.
Well, the nice thing about LaTeX, although the poster I did was done in PowerPoint because it has superior vector editing and things, but the presentations I've been doing lately, I've been trying to do in Beamer. So in theory, all of the LaTeX for that is already written. It just needs to be de-beamered.
I guess there's a whole bunch of ways to do this. I guess since you're the lead author, you just have to decide which is the one that you use, and you have to be like, we're gonna use this one.
I know.
And we'll be like, okay.
That is simultaneously like very open, but also vaguely stressful.
Yeah. I tend to go between the different ones. I kind of like the one where you go with the LaTeX template, because then I don't know, psychologically for me, just having that LaTeX template going and starting to get things in there makes me feel like I've made some progress.
Okay. I do still have what we started with in Dayton, but most of it's going to be very comparable. I don't necessarily know if we need like the Doppler shift introduction, although I usually put that on posters and presentations, so I suppose it may still be helpful to whomever is reading the paper.
Yeah. I think it will be to some extent, because I think it's going to be still a fairly new idea. And you want the paper to, to stand on its own. So you're going to have a methodology section, and you're going to have,
Yeah,
so
that is technically here.
but you'll also be able to cite back to Christina's papers, which
Yes.
left it every time.
I think this is technically falls under kind of data usual. Okay. Do you have anything to add or any major complaints about the outline? I don't know if we'll actually have Grape 2 data. I don't know if it's worth distinguishing Whisper Daemon data.
I think what you can say is, in the methodology, you could say something like there are multiple versions of the hardware that were deployed, and you can include a sentence or two differentiating between the different versions. And
Yeah,
you don't have, and what their capabilities are. And then throughout the rest of the paper, you just use whatever data makes the most sense to address the question you're trying to address.
yeah,
So I think a good thing to do for the outline now is, you have the original science questions from the grant proposal, right?
yes.
Okay.
Well,
What if you bring those up, and
slightly.
what's that?
I said I do tend to reword them slightly on presentations.
That's okay. Yeah, you can reword them, and you can modify them, but I think they're a good starting point for, what you want your paper to do, because like each figure isn't we don't want to just be like, oh, here's the data from W8EDU, and here's the data from W3USR. You want to say, like, you don't want to just show the data. Like, the reason we're showing the data is to answer certain scientific questions. Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to try to make the figures in such a way that they address the scientific question. These questions are the ones we put in the proposal, so they serve as a really good starting point for a couple of reasons. One is you know, we've thought about them and there are reasons we've made these questions scientifically. Two is, you know, when we go to write our report about the project, we want to be able to say, oh yeah, these are the questions that we originally proposed and here's how we answered them. It makes for writing a nice, easy report. So that's why you can start with these. But you also don't have to feel like you have to answer all of the questions. You also don't have to feel like you need to be constrained by these questions either. You can add new questions. But I think these are a really good starting point, and you should certainly consider them when you're starting to write the outline of your paper.
Yeah, I think I'll probably drop the first one at the very least. I typically do.
Yeah, I think that's a smart thing to do here because we do want to try to keep this paper focused more on the eclipse.
Yeah,
Although-
other than
yeah.
other
Although,
than a question too, I feel like we don't have a solid multi-path characterization necessarily.
Right.
Other
You-
than like full graph of it.
right. Now that's a section for that section 4. You know, you could, I bet Steve Serwin will have some ideas about that too. So that's the other nice thing. You are not bound to have to write all of this by yourself. So you are within your rights to invite co-authors to help you write sections and contribute different things.
Okay.
And that's one of the nice things about going for like the JGR or the Frontiers format, because then you can be like, you know, you could call up Steve and you can ask him very nicely. I'm like, you could say, would you consider writing a section that addresses this particular question?
Yeah.
And then you can incorporate that text into your paper.
Okay. I think I'm gonna work on that then. I may not be, so I'm in Illinois right now, but I'm hoping to be back in Ohio by next week and
Okay.
get back to things. Okay. Does anyone have anything else that they'd like to talk about?
You know, since this is a citizen science project, and we have all of these people on here,
Yep.
I think it might also be nice to kind of poll the attendees of this group to see if there are any particular science questions they want answered or would like to, you know, be put in the paper, and see if they have any particularly interesting figures or data that they might want to include.
That is an excellent question for the peanut gallery.
Well, not just the peanut gallery, our collaborators. But I think one of the things I'm trying to figure out is what's the best way to, you know, incorporate, you know, we want the citizen science not just be crowdsourced data collection where we give people grapes and they go send us data and then we go off and do science with it. You know, certainly that's okay for people who want to participate on that level. But as a citizen science project, I'm hoping that we can also figure out good ways that the people who are collaborating have an opportunity to, you know, make some real contributions, or we can hear what they have to say as well and include that.
So the question that I have is, what's sort of I don't know how to phrase this, but the density of stations on the ground, how much difference is there between a pair of stations that are very close? I mean, I know the Northeast has a bunch of stations in it, are they all in fact valuable? Or if two stations are within, 100 kilometers of each other, is there actually any difference?
So this is kind of like a question of are the stations like linearly independent or not, right?
Yeah, and also I guess it seems what is the feature size of the stuff going on in the ionosphere? If the feature size is very small, then it makes sense that you need a lot of resolution on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I think a short answer is a kilometer is not going to make a lot of difference. 100 kilometers certainly will.
Well, that was my gut too, but there's quite a lot of difference there.
And it'd be nice to be able to show that.
I was going to say that, well, this isn't eclipse data, but in general, it's nice to have the clusters.
Yeah.
Have like a cluster of Pennsylvania, nearby Pennsylvania stations and a cluster of Ohio stations. Like you can confirm that all of the stations are working properly fairly quickly, and that they all kind of agree on the ionospheric activity, and that if you see some kind of lead lag traveling wave, you have a very
well, the question has come up about as the signal comes and goes, as the MUF changes. With the cluster either in Ohio or in Massachusetts, it'd be interesting to see how the signals change at the various stations as a MUF goes through a particular frequency. You might find some very sharp edges.
We do.
That's fair.
We don't always agree.
I mean, so in from my view is there, typically as you look at things in more and more detail, more and more interesting stuff shows up. And the question is, what is that distance below which, would it make sense for another project to put in a cluster within, a 50-kilometer circle somewhere and cover it? Or should you be trying to spread out across the US looking for bigger scale stuff?
I think the answer is actually both.
Spoken like a true grant application.
Right, thank you. Well, but I mean, there really is good reason for that, because we know that the eclipse is a very large scale thing, and you really do want to be able to capture that across the entire continent. But at the same time, like there are papers out there now that are claiming or showing that the eclipses create these smaller scale traveling atmospheric disturbances or waves that you have to have higher density of measurements in order to be able to resolve those. And I know even the other work I'm doing right now, I'm working with large scale traveling atmospheric disturbances, continental scale size things. I'm also working with medium scale size ones that are 1 to 300 kilometers in horizontal wavelength. And one of the things I'm trying to do in this other paper, I'm trying to show that there's some sort of correlation between the two features. And so I have a case where I need measurements that can resolve both the small things. I have a case where I need measurements that can resolve the large scale features. And there's even features that are even smaller than just like hundreds of kilometers. So I think in some way it's the way the sensors are set out is almost like a type of an observational filter. So there are many different things that are going on in the ionosphere all at the same time. You say, what do you need the sensors? Do you need a small set of sensors or a very dense set of sensors, or do you need a very spread out one? The answer is both, and they're looking at kind of different features that may or may not be related in the ionosphere.
Yeah, and we can always sample from a more dense grid.
Yeah.
You can always say, look at a cluster for larger stuff.
I think the answer is we want, you know, an infinite number of measurements everywhere all the time. I think that's the real answer. I think that's obviously impossible.
But I know what
but
you mean. Have the densest grid possible, then you can always say, I'm looking at something large scale. I'm going to pull station clusters in, 100-kilometer intervals.
So I think, we're, as a citizen science project, again, we have kind of this funny constraint, whereas instead of us necessarily saying we're going to put a sensor exactly here, we go out and we say who's willing to host a sensor, and we find that just based on who's willing to host it and the amount of resources we've got a nice cluster of them up in the Northeast in the New England Grape Group people. And then we've got dense measurements up there, and then we have spread out measurements in other places. And I think what we do is we try to figure out, maybe the question isn't what's the correct density of measurements we need. Maybe the correct question is, what is the scientific phenomena that, given the set of measurements we have, what scientific phenomena are we properly equipped to observe and say something about with what we have?
It seems to me with the RX 888 stuff, that might be a lot easier to get a lot more stations running that stuff.
Yeah. And we're already seeing that.
So is there I have a couple of them, to be honest. Is there a package to run on those?
A software package? Yes. So there's now in fact, I'll forward it to you as well. Okay. I have this presentation that I gave at Cedar that talks about the RX 888. Anyone who wants a copy of it, a PDF copy, just put your email in the chat and I will forward you a copy. And that tells you exactly, or it tells you almost exactly what hardware you need and what software. And the real answer is, right now, it's not all put together in a nice coherent package. If you want to install one, we'll refer you to Rob Robinette or Michael Howen, and they'll help you get the right software going and the right hardware. And we're in the process of trying to document that and maybe produce some kits through Tapper or something like that, where you can get it all in one place. So we do have a nice, well-established system. It's just not all in one place yet. Okay, thanks for putting that.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, concerns?
I think this is really good progress today. I'm happy with how things are going with the outline. Rachel, I'm also really happy that we're getting people to add to the discussion of it as well. So I think that's all really good. And I guess my big announcement, which I think people know, but I haven't been on this telecon since then, is 2 telecons ago, my wife had a baby. So we have brand new baby Danielle. And I do have some photos if anyone wants to see.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So
Very good, very good. Congratulations.
there you go. There's Danielle. Took that picture last night. So, and she's already been to her first ham fest.
Right.
We all went on Sunday morning. And oh, here's Anthony playing with the CW key. And where is it? Yes, and here we all are at the the Ham Fest with Gene KJI and my wife and Charlie Sabula. So the other really good news, so that's like super exciting. The other really good news is it's not official yet, but I've remember the Daisy 2 grant that we submitted a couple months ago. So the NSF program officer told me that he intends to recommend it for funding. So Daisy 2. So yeah, so cross your fingers it all goes smoothly. But if he's intending to recommend it for funding, then it's a very good chance we'll actually get it. So it's not official yet, not 100%, but that's really good feedback. So thank you for everyone who helped contribute to that. Great. So I think that's it for today. I'll see some people on the telecon this afternoon, and I hope you all have a great day. And I will, before I quit the telecon, let me make sure I get everyone's name out of the chat emails from people who wanted that. So David McGaw, Gary. I'm going to turn off the recording.